Hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're having a fine Monday today, and all is good in the world with everybody. Welcome once again to you know what? Yep, Stadia Monday night chat with me, Clive Illenden. Welcome, one and all. We will let the people gather. Let everyone in. Hello. Let's do it in order. Jerome was here sitting, waiting patiently. Hello, Jerome. Ashes to Ashes. Brandon, always good to see you there. Rock, my main man. Check out Rock and me. We're going to be live tomorrow on our Generation X gaming show. More on that later. Ashes to Ashes. Hey, Antonio. All good to see you. And we've got a great show tonight. It's going to be, well, I hope it's going to be a cracker. I do. I really do. Stadia Mania, hello. How are you? Welcome. As I say, I hope it's going to be an absolute cracker. I've got screens to the left of me, screens to the right of me. Can I control it all? That's the thing. Anyway, welcome one and all. I'm Clive Illenden, and I will be your captain tonight on the slow boat to Stadia Harbour. And what a show. As I said, what a show we've got here. We've got some exciting Stadia related news. Of course we have. That's what we do every week. And we'll go through that, of course, and we'll be discussing some of the key issues, some of the key headlines from that in length. But even better than that, I have a super special guest tonight, and I'm so stoked to have him on. And it's going to be amazing. Of course, it's the one and only Chase, aka Stadia Talk. He's going to be here, right now. He's going to be here later tonight, and we're going to have a chat with him, touch on some of the headline news from Stadia News-wise and things like that. But also, I want to sort of delve a bit deeper into who is Chase? What is Stadia Talk all about? And try to get under the skin and understand what Chase is all about and why such passion and love for Stadia, as many of us have. Anyway, as I say, welcome. What am I going to? Chats here. Welcome to the chats. Rick, always lovely to see you. Welcome, Rick. What makes him tick? Exactly, Ashes to Ashes. Exactly. We're going to get to the bottom of it today. Full-on journalistic investigation. No, I'm curious about what drives many of the people in the community, and I'll touch on it later. But you know, making content is fun, but it does require effort. So you've made a conscious decision that you want to sort of share your love of this product. Why is that? What is it about it that makes us content providers want to do that? And I want to hear that from one of the most sort of active voices in the community. I think he's on everybody's show. And then he's running his own podcast all the time. He's everywhere and showing so much love to everybody. So that's why I wanted him on and wanted to sort of talk to him. So anyway, Resurrector, lovely to see you. Charles, lovely to see you. Let me know what games you've all been playing this week as well. Put it in the chat. Remember, avail yourself to the super chats if you want to be raised to the lofty heights and get a shout out and a mention. I'll shout you all out anyway, so that's cool. Exactly. Cannons to the left of me, cannons to the right of me, Rick. Exactly. Jokers to the left of me, jokers to the right of me. Anyway, so let us know what your games. I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2, and I'll tell you for why. I introduced my girlfriend to Stadia, and she doesn't play games. She's never really played game. In fact, I don't think she's ever played games before, apart from Candy Crush on a phone. So I thought, well, you know, someone to play with, especially in lockdown. We're kind of a bit separated at the moment, so I'll get her playing Destiny 2. She's on the same blooming level as me now, and she secretly plays when I'm working from home. She's playing, and then she keeps sending me photo snaps of her progress, going, oh, I'm at this level now. So I've been grinding it out for Destiny 2 because we cannot have that. We cannot. Once Once she was the teacher, now she is the master. I am the master. Anyway, it's just not on. I know, introduce somebody to a hobby and then they take over. It's not fair, hey? Anyway, no, it's good to see, and that's the beauty of Stadia. Just bought a Chromebook, plugs it in, and you're playing Destiny. What, you know, can't ask more than that. Hey, Bobble has well kisses. How are you, Stefan? Lovely. Welcome. Right. Well, let's get on with the news. So, news this week: Stadia patch 1.45, which means that there's a 1.5, and I do believe in programming terms the 0.5s are bigger or more important, or tend to have hefty. They're sort of a halfway between, you know, doing a 2.0, which is kind of a big update. But some pretty major kind of updates within that, with the 5.1 surround sound now available in the Chromecast browser. Can you believe that? If you've got not that many people have a 4K gaming monitor with 5.1 surround sound, but if you do, and your game supports that, you get to play that in your Chrome browser. That's just bonkers when you think about it. But it's like Stadia. It's just a 1. It's just a throwaway and an update. That's the way Stadia operates. No big fanfare. No, they just like put it in the patch notes. Oh, by the way, 5.1 surround sound on your Chrome browser. Crazy. Android TV. So it looks like it's Stadia could be coming to Android TV. And Rock, thank you, Rock, pointed out to me that Sony uses Sony televisions have Android TV built in, and I think so. In the TV and film industry, they negotiate hard with the big television manufacturers to make sure that their smart app is sort of pre-installed. It's a selling point for the television, but it's also really important for the broadcast, your Netflix or your Amazon, to have the app installed on your telly, because they know that, you know, a big TV manufacturer like Samsung gets mass market penetration. So imagine if you've got Android TV and they're like in all the Sony TVs, and you get like a smart app, and it's it's Stadia. That is going to be mass market penetration for Stadia, which is effectively an app. It's just a smart app. And so if you can have a smart TV app version of it, that's quite a big thing, I think, rolling out onto Android TV. So yeah, here's to Stadia. So that was the other thing. Also, it's rolled out to OnePlus 8 phones now have joined the list. I know a lot of people are excited that they're quite large phones, those OnePlus 8. So if you're going to play, Stadia on a mobile phone, I think you're better off playing one of the large ones. And I do believe the OnePlus 8s are quite large. Anyway, just another phone added to the mix there. So onwards and upwards. So that's good. Let me know if anybody here has got a OnePlus 8 and has been looking forward to playing Stadia on their mobile phone. As I've said various times before, I find it this Pixel 4 is too small for me to play on. Maybe if I play something like SteamWorld Dig might work. Yeah, I think there's certain smaller games like SteamWorld Dig kind of work quite well, but I need a bigger screen for the, you know, first person shooters. My tiny eyes, my tiny writing, I can't see. The other thing I wanted to highlight is F1 2020. That's effectively, is that like a triple? I'd say it's like a AA to AAA game. It's a big racing game, a big brand as well. So people say, you know, is Madden going to come? You know, we're going to get FIFA type games. This is a Formula One. This is a big branded game arriving on. Oh, someone's knocking at the door. Someone's ringing the bell. Why don't we all come and let him in? I will do. In fact, if you just bear with me one moment, ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me. If I get this right, it's going to look absolutely amazing. There, boom. Do you see that was seamless there? Hello.
Hey.
How are you, my man?
Good, Clive. How are you doing?
I am, well, I was good, and now I'm even better. Look at you in my little window box there. It looks quite good there.
I was going to say I have to zoom. I have to kind of
Yeah.
adjust, and there we go.
Yeah,
We're good to go.
window. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm so glad. Welcome everybody. Look, as you can't put your hands together, hit that like button. It's like clapping. That's the way I look at it. It's like clapping. Let's get the comments and the chats up there. There we go. Right. Okay. As I said, I'm absolutely stoked, Chase, to have you on here. You are such a sort of a big voice in the community, and you were sort of maybe the second. So I think if I think about the order in which I sort of started watching Stadia content creators, obviously caught Stadia Cast, as probably most of us did, stumble on them. But then it was you, really. And there you were just sort of talking away about Stadia, and it just seemed to resonate with me on so many different levels, what you were saying. And I just found it really kind of interesting. But I don't think I'm unique in that. I'm sure 90%, if not more, of the chat here will probably feel the same when they kind of hear you talk. And there's a certain, I'm going to get into this all later, but I just want to sort of introduce you. There's a certain passion, and we won't go into it now, but we'll come to it later, that just emanates from you. But before we get into that, if you've got any questions for Chase, then put them in the chat and we'll try and get them out to him as well. So some of I was just going through some of the big news things there. We talked about the patch and it potentially coming to Android TV. And I was talking about how Rock was telling me that Android TVs are sort of, the Android TV app is built into many of the Sony TVs. And in the TV and film industry, television companies, or the Netflix and the Amazons, and they negotiate hard to make sure their smart app is not only on manufacturers' televisions or baked in, but front and center, because they know that if you get it on a Samsung TV, they're selling in the millions, and there's your app straight right in front of it, people in front of eyeballs, easy access. And if Stadia can achieve that with the sort of Android TVs, say they're baked into the Sony televisions, then it's going to give them mass penetration. So that's I think that's quite exciting. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the TV industry has always been something that it's not one of my strong suits, but I do understand from a product analysis, and when you're looking at it from basically getting exposure, and that's what a lot of these things are. They're exposure campaigns. You're wanting to get the application onto as many devices as possible, to get it out in front of as many eyes as possible. And Google clearly has thought this out long-term, that their long-term vision is not just to be on what we would consider the mainstream devices. So that's going to be your Chromecast, right? For Google, at least. They're thinking a much bigger picture. They're thinking about the general consumer that's going to, over here we've got Walmart and Target and all these other, box stores. But
yeah,
they're thinking about the person that goes in to buy their television, and it's already in the television when they buy it. And then all of a sudden now they're exposed to this that they never knew existed. And that's really, I think, when Google talks about wanting to reach 1 billion consumers, and this is their goal. This is a lofty goal. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in probably you or I's lifetime, but that's why they're so bullish on this, because they're looking at different segments of the marketplace that they feel like they can tap into. And TVs innately, if you don't have to put an extra piece along with it, I do think that that's a smart strategy by them. Now,
it's kind of play the whole play anywhere, play everywhere kind of philosophy, and that's what cloud gaming can do. It's like, as you say, it's making it's effectively just an app, so it's making it accessible to as many people as possible. And the fact that it's there, and you maybe click on it or pick up your controller, and boom, there you go. It's just as I say, and because not everybody has sort of reasonable computers or access to consoles and stuff like this, but people have access to TVs and mobile phones. So you can bet your bottom dollar when Project Tempo comes out, if it's wrapped in, Amazon have already got their app effectively built into many TVs. So it could be just for them. It would just be potentially an update of the smart app to incorporate the gaming aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's like that's actually a really good point that you bring up, Clive, because Amazon, for many years up until probably about 2 years ago, I actually talked about this a little bit earlier this week, is they really hadn't tapped into anything or really taken a market share away from Google until Alexa came along and the Echo Dot. That really was their foray into really taking away a lot of that market share for the home entertainment aspect. And that's really what these devices are. They're designed for home entertainment. They're designed for security. I mean, all the other things you can think of. So Amazon is very much, they have insiders at their company, just like Google does. They buy these products, they tear them down, they find ways to either make them better or improve or enhance them. And they are doing that with, you're probably going to see the Fire TV at some point have Project Tempo on it. The Fire Sticks are going to have it. Anything that has the Amazon ecosystem tied to it, they're going to find ways to leverage it. And Prime is just such a smart move by them if they leverage it the right way, because it's existing user base. It's massive across the US. It's massive in the UK. And
I think Amazon's an interesting one because, I think, and the Google Home and Alexa comparison is interesting because, Alexa has arguably started off anyway, and I'm sure it does now, has a much larger market penetration. Because people almost already recognize the Amazon brand, oddly enough, more than Google, because Google tends to spread itself quite thinly over lots of different things, whereas people are more tempted. I remember when I got the Google Home like really early on, but you talk to people, they go, "What's that?" And they'll talk about Alexa. Alexa almost becomes a verb. It's so popular, and yet the better product, in my opinion, anyway, by far, is the Google Home. I don't want to say it too loud because he always butts in, the Google Home Assistant.
You got to be careful. They listen.
But the Alexa seems to have more market. Amazon seems to sort of achieve more market penetration, or certainly through their marketing. Where Alexa becomes, that's the smart speaker. If you went to most people in the street and said, name a smart speaker, I bet you 7 out of 10 times they're going to go Alexa. And I think so that Amazon, I think personally, have a massive advantage when they launch Project Tempo oddly enough, over Google. Google's advantage, that they've been first to market, but Amazon will be launch on a much grander scale than Google did, and there's different business models that they're taking. Google are taking a slightly more softly approach. That's the way they do, and they build and iterate, whereas Amazon are much more big fanfare launch.
Yeah, and Amazon's business model, though, of what they've stated to the public, at least as much as we know right now, is they are not actually taking the traditional model that we thought they were going to take. And I know Rock's here in the chat. He actually was one of the few people that was kind of big on this, and most of us really thought that they were going to try to lure in third parties onto the platform, and that's actually not what they're trying to do. They're really focused on mobile deployment. They're not focused on the same mindset that Google is. Google is very much third party in their own applications. Amazon it's all in-house. We're going to start there and we're going to work our way out. And it's actually a smart strategy because it's a cost saving piece for them. If they focus on just launching their own games on that platform to start, it's going to be very similar to what you see Microsoft doing, like with Game Pass. They can take the hit because it's all internal cost. It's not an external cost that they're having to worry about. So, in that respect, I do think they are definitely going to be a competitor. Like you said, they are definitely something that is going to push the rest of the landscape. I think what's going to be interesting, though, to watch is if 5G really does take off in 2021 and Google makes the immediate shift, which I think they will. I don't know. I've been a little bit more concerned about Amazon just because I know how they work, and a lot of people don't give them credit, like with AWS and everything else. But I'm starting to wonder now if maybe we've underestimated where Google's positioning has been. And I'm at fault at that too. I have to be very honest. The Shannon Studstill news, this launch that they've just done with the free tier, they've really made some gutsy moves here. And one in particular with this launch that they did, I walked into the room, 3 lions are around me. I took half the carcass, and what are you going to do about it? Yeah. And you don't really see the competition saying anything right now, because what's the only answer that they have? They'd have to drop the consoles $300 or $400 in price. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Microsoft know cloud gaming is absolutely crucial, but they've also they're heavily invested for this generation. For the next 5 years, they're heavily invested in the hardcore console. So yeah, eventually I can see them moving to a cloud gaming thing, but not yet. Their business model isn't ready for that. So I think Google, and to a certain degree Amazon. So Google, I think, realized they've got the tech that works. As we all know, it works really well, and they know that the best chance they have is with proven tech that works, getting out there first, and demonstrating to the world. And as you say, saying, okay, if you're going to launch a cloud gaming service, it better be as good as this, if not better. And I think the others are going, well, we'll keep our powder dry for now, because we're probably not, if they're honest, Project X Cloud, yes, they have a ton times, loads more games. So they have the library, they have the content.
Right.
But it's not quite there in terms of the actual tech. I've tried it, it's all right. But it's how people, ironically enough, it's how people imagined Stadia was going to be. And which is why Stadia is so sort of pleasantly surprising when you get it, because it does sort of have that magic to it where you expect some latency and lag, but you don't perceive it. I mean, if it's Digital Foundry, they measure it, it's probably 20 milliseconds of it, but as a player you don't perceive it unless you're like a hardcore master race PC gamer at 120 frames per second, and then suddenly you jump onto Stadia. Yeah, you might feel a gear change, but for the average gamer, casual gamer who just says, "Oh, I'm going to play, Tomb Raider or Destiny 2," it feels smooth, seamless, and it's everything that cloud gaming sort of our expectations, our dreams of what cloud gaming should at least be your starting point. And all the other versions that I've tried are they're either the close or inconsistent or not quite there. So I think Google knew they had the advantage. They've got some secret sauce. The others have trying to work it out. They'll catch up like they do. Secret sources don't stay secret for long. But as long as you've kept it secret, that's when you can get market advantage. The longer you do that and get your feet firmly in, so that you're one of the players in the field when the game really kicks off.
I mean, all the things you're saying are spot on, Clive. And it's interesting because, Microsoft has always been very much, a lot of people don't give them credit for, Azure. Their server infrastructure is really good. I mean, it's second to none. It's probably one of the better ones in the world. Where Google's advantage,
number 2 in the world, I think they are.
Yeah. Google's advantage is their network infrastructure. Their pipeline is literally, I've made the analogy before. If you go to the Autobahn, it's like a winding road that's not ideal for you to be taking turns at 140 miles an hour.
Yeah. And
you probably will bend off into the mountain. But with Google, everything's streamlined, because from the point of your house to your ISP, they immediately are now picking up the legwork. Everything is seamless. It's like a giant, you hear them say this all the time, and they're not kidding when they say this. It's like a giant LAN party. So that's why this platform is doing so well, is because Google's network infrastructure is second to none. And the only competitor right now, as it stands today, and like you said, this will change. There will be changes. Folks have to just buckle up, because this is how competition works. There will be changes in the horse race. But the only close competitor is Amazon. Their network pipeline is very good. I mean, I can't lie. I can't sit here and, I know I've had coders come over onto my channel and say AWS is crap. And I'm like, but are you paying attention to what their infrastructure investments are on the cloud side? Because it's been very good.
Yeah, it's their number one profit, margin. Their main profit comes from their Amazon's cloud system. So they know they've got more global penetration cloud-wise than Google has. They just need to sort of say, send someone in like SpongeBob, send in, steal the secrets crab sauce, find out what that is. And if they can sort of nail it or get similar to Stadia, then they're going to probably have to roll out on a larger scale than Google can. Although, as I say, the advantage Google has is they can build to that. You know, that's
100%.
You know, they're out there now, and they can build to that. So touching on that, actually, it's worth talking. What are your thoughts then? So in the Phil Harrison interview where he mentioned we've got 450 games in development, what I mean, we know what he means is that there are 450 games being developed, not necessarily by Google, just, you know, that they're talking to for, you know, this year and beyond. So, you know, let's be clear, they're not all delivering today. But I was trying to work it out. If you spread it over 3 years, that's not a kind of, you know, that's just like a regular console just building up its library, and, you know, getting into the cycle where all the AAA titles are coming to Stadia at the same time as they're coming to, you know, Xbox One and PlayStation, whatever. And we're beginning to see that anyway. We saw it with Doom. You know, to a certain degree, you'll see it with Formula One. You know, coming out on 3 consoles, 4 consoles, you know, which includes Stadia. Cyberpunk, of course, they announced the date of that. So this will just become the new normal as more and more, you know, developers, you know, sort of jump on board. So, you know, I think it was interesting that he gave that talk to, I think it was the New York Times, and it was also picked up by NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ are obviously reporting to the market to say, you know, if you've got money to burn and you want a good investment, these are the facts about Google Stadia. And so from a finance and business point of view, finance and business people see the potential of cloud gaming. Developers see the potential of cloud gaming. I think the only people who don't see potential of cloud gaming are those sort of tribalist people who are stuck with their, you know, PC Master Race and PlayStation and Xbox, and those ones that don't want to, you know, are in denial almost that it's happening. But I always look at the view as, you know, I'll look to people who are you in the industry or have some know, or you know, you're a business person, then you're more likely to know, because you've done the research, that, you know, cloud gaming is a thing. So what do you think about those announcements anyway, of the 450 games? And
I was kicking myself that I missed that in November of 2019, because it's literally where Phil said it. It was right around the time of launch. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why it was missed, is because the mindset wasn't about the future. It was about the now. You know, everybody's mind was. And
he's talking to the shareholders, basically, or the investment at the time. That's who his audience is, effectively. He knows.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what's interesting about NASDAQ, S&P, Dow Jones, you know, and some, I know Duncan, I actually had him on Saturday, One to Escape, who's one of the writers over at Stadia Source. He's an awesome individual. And, you know, he felt it was an opinion piece. And yes, we do see with NASDAQ that they use firms to write some of these projections. But the one overarching thing that I think is important is that NASDAQ does their own independent research. And before they allow these articles to be posted up through their site, is number one, they're a financial institution. They're held to a certain standard where they're not allowed to do market manipulation, and you know, it goes on and on.
They could be sued big time if they sort of insider trading or misleading in terms of what they're saying to bump up stock or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. So it's not something that is, you know, that we should be taking lightly. And I recognized it for what it is. It's a massive bit of news. When NASDAQ is talking about this, they're looking at 2 to 3 year projections. That's usually what most of these financial institutions do. They look out to about 2 to 3 years. They look to see what the landscape's going to look like. And they're looking at this as Google's bottom line is going to increase overall as far as their market share and their growth. Yes. And here's why this is a big deal. And I have to say, Clive, every time I watch your content, one of the reasons I enjoy it, I've actually told Rock this before as well, is that your mind is very brilliant about how you look at things, not just from a business. I know he's like, not just from a business perspective. There's other things that I've kind of picked up on too, that I can clearly tell you have the mind for. And also when it comes to the entertainment side, because you can see how you present things and how you talk about things. And it's very interesting. But the reason I'm I'm drawing that or bringing that up is because if you are in an industry where you're either dealing with marketing or PR or any type of business analytics, this is something that you cannot understate, because this now puts Google at a forefront that they weren't before in the past 2 to 3 months. Why is that important? Because investors are going to be looking at Google in regards to whether or not they want to give them their dollar, whether or not they want to invest in them long term to actually give them the liquidity and the capital that they're going to need if they expand this thing on a global reach, which is exactly what they're trying to do. I mean, that's obvious. They told us this. We shouldn't not believe them. So it's massive. It's absolutely massive. And I have to think that Microsoft, I'm not in their boardrooms. I have to think Amazon, I'm not in their boardroom. I have to think Nvidia, I'm not in their boardroom. We're probably in some kind of damage control the last few days over this, because you don't want this getting out into the public. This is not, for you, this is bad. This is your competitor basically being propped up by a financial institution that has no stake in this game, ladies and gentlemen. They don't care if Google fails, lives, dies, walks out with 2 limbs and nothing left. It doesn't matter to them. All they're doing is saying, hey, we look at this, we see the potential, and here's what it would be for your investment. And right now, Google is on the rise when it comes to this platform. And just to touch on one other thing you mentioned about, we have a lot of folks in the community that, and I'm talking about the larger gaming community, that it feels like it's tribal and stuff. I struggle with this because I don't fault people. I understand people are resistant and hesitant to change. It's a human trait. We all deal with
I get that. People don't like change, until it becomes, as I think I said in somebody's chat today, until it becomes the normal. Change becomes the new normal, and then they just accept it and life goes on, But initially, people don't like change. As you say, it's human instinct.
It really reminds me, I hate bringing up this example because it's kind of a taboo thing to talk about now, because when we talk about Netflix, that's the one thing we don't want to talk about when it comes to Stadia. But there was a time when Netflix rolled out. And you probably remember this, when they were doing the DVDs and then they immediately moved over to the digital distribution. And when they did that, there were so many folks, you can go back, the receipts are there. So many people doubted Netflix's reach into the market. They thought that the infrastructure wasn't there. They thought that the business model didn't make sense. And then a year later, I can't tell you how many people literally jumped to get a subscription on the service. They even had a little bit of if I remember right, they had a little bit of a waiting list for that for a little bit because the demand was so high. So this is going to, Google is positioned themselves so smartly right now in the marketplace. And now what's going to happen, this is going to be a catalyst, ladies and gentlemen. What is happening with the market is now going to translate over to the publishers and developers. This is now the sign that they were waiting for. They wanted to see, okay, what is Wall Street thinking about this? Is this something that really is going to be meaningful? And now you're going to start seeing some of the folks out there that might have been a little bit more hesitant, right, start to jump on board. I think we're going to see a rocket ship kind of a moment happen here over the next 5 to 6 months, in my opinion, off of this news.
I think so. I think from a stock market point of view, what they're seeing is they've seen. So I saw a graph. That was a presentation, and I saw a graph recently which plotted sort of. I can do it over here. Netflix sort of share price and Blockbuster's share price, and over the space of 10 years. And they just went like that, and then Blockbuster goes bust and is no longer in existence. And I think it was last week, Netflix was worth more money than Disney in terms of the sort of entertainment media market, which that's in the space of like 10 years. Disney took 70 years to get to that state, and they own Marvel and Star Wars and everything.
Right.
Netflix is now above Disney in terms of market value, and that was sort of a last week or so. And I think the market is seeing that, what Netflix did, and seeing the potential and the growth in the market that Netflix created, and then seeing cloud gaming was sort of bumbling under, a few experiments, as it were, tried, but now Stadia have kind of said, okay, we're in the game now. Here's our sort of first venture. It works. The rest is now just building on top of that. The key thing is, for me, when I sort of got into Stadia, and sort of when I saw that sort of presentation and they announced the Founders Edition, for me I thought, if anybody can do this, Google can. And I got it, and they did. And I think what Google have done is saying, So look, there's any idea that, oh, cloud gaming will never work, it's never going to be a thing. They proved straight away that it is a thing. And now now they've broken through that kind of barrier. It's all upwards from now. And it's to say, it's not just Google, all the other markets. So if you look at, they talk about FANG, the FANG group, which is Facebook, it's FANG AA. So it's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. Yeah. So the sort of the big giant stock markets. They look at those, and already we know. So Google's in the game. We know Amazon's in the game. Apple's doing their own thing, sort of thing in the game. Netflix, well, I think probably not. They know where their market is and what they're doing. Facebook just launched a standalone gaming app. So, and in that, it talked about the value not just of the gaming, but of the game streaming, watching game streams. Now, we know that Google have realized that those two things conjoined is really powerful.
Yep.
Amazon know that because they already own Twitch, and they're gonna, the fact that it's about keeping people in your ecosystem, and you either keep people in your ecosystem because they're watching people play games, or you keep people in your ecosystem because they're playing the games. Right. And it's interesting that that those two things the market recognizes as being mass market kind of forms of entertainment: the playing of games and the watching of games. And the two biggest players in the market, Amazon potentially and Google, both have the platforms. Both have the platforms, A, to play the games, and B, to stream the games. And I think it's that combination which is going to sort of combine to form some sort of rocket fuel in terms of gaming in general. Because watching gaming was just a sort of a niche thing, but now it's it's sort of almost mainstream. And the ease of access to be able to do that, I think, is going to be an extra added bonus. And of course, it helps sell games. People love watching games. You like watching football. Why people say to me, why do kids watch people playing games? And my view is, well, you like to watch it because it's entertaining, in the same way perhaps you like to watch football or something, or wrestling. It's like, if you could do it yourself that well, you would, but equally you might learn some things as well. So it's the same sort of thing, and that's going to become the norm much more. I think as we already see on Twitch, the amount of billions of people of hours of just gameplay that's watched. In fact, the amount of live gameplay watched is all on the Twitch. But the amount of hours watched is all on YouTube, interestingly enough, in terms of gaming. And they're going to be big. Yeah, they're the big platforms for watching games. And now the owners of those companies are both going to be producing the platform from which to go off and play those games as well.
Yeah, and again, I think the very good way to kind of, I guess, maybe bookend this to just bolster everything you're saying is that, folks, you have to just remember that NASDAQ has people that they go and validate this stuff. And that would have meant that somebody has either seen or has gotten information from someone that is inside that has seen that the information that Phil is saying outright is accurate. Like that there's no, it's not fake. It's not incorrect. It's not wrong. That there's truth behind that number. They got a
5-10 year strategy. They got a 5-year strategy at least, and saying, okay, these amount of games tend to be are scheduled for the next 18 to 24 months. We want to make sure they're on our platform. We also know that there is a regular cycle of development that takes place. So returning, like in television, you've got your returners, your sequels that are coming back. We know you've got those. They're all planned out. So Google will have a good in their mind, and Phil Harrison will know this, having worked across, all the kind of major companies, will know that there's this constant conveyor belt of production and delivery. And he knows, therefore, on that basis that, okay, we've plotted out 5 years. That's probably 450 games, based on archive games and new games. It's a sort of a business standard gaming publisher calculation, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it is, but I also think that there's probably more concrete numbers behind just it being a projection. I think
Yeah,
that some of this is going to be coming from that there's already agreements in place. So
yeah,
this is why this has so much weight. You know, him saying it last year to, I think it was a UK publication. I can't remember who it was right now off the top of my head, but him saying that last year, you know, I think maybe a lot of people might have just been dismissive of that's just him talking. But when NASDAQ goes and does their own research, and again, they look at what that firm wrote for them and placed up onto their site, it holds a whole lot of weight. It's a much different game that you're dealing with when you get that type of information. And again, everything you've said is that you're going to be looking at just kind of rocket fuel here over the next 5 to 6 months based off of that news. I'd love to be the fly on the wall in some of these boardrooms because, man, there's probably a lot of contingency.
In the future, I've been in that situation because they're talking about stuff they know what games they've got in development. It would be so cool to be that fly and just think, oh my God, this is so exciting. You know, I've been in that situation where you go, yeah, this game will be delivering it in, you know, in the next 18 months or 2 years. And you're just thinking, and you're seeing demos of it and sort of initial you know, design, you know, level design and stuff like that. And it is so exciting. You just kind of, oh my God. And so we're all thinking, oh, when's the next big AAA coming? And they know what's coming in, you know, 18 months, 2 months. So to be in that boardroom was just it'd be really cool, I think, personally, just to know, not just the games, but also the tech. Like we mentioned. So, you know, that segue there moves nicely onto this. So Stadia Cast asked some questions of and knows a developer, and the developer said they're working on a game for Stadia, and they already have access to this sort of Tech 2.1, Stadia 2.0 technology as well. So what are your? I know you've talked about this briefly today in your show, but just give us some general thoughts on that.
I kind of have some tempered expectations with it because what we tend to see happen in the gaming landscape, and Stadia is not, you know, immune to this. You see it kind of everywhere, is when someone feels like they've got the upper hand, it's let's run to the streets, let's wave our flags, our banners, and tell everybody else that, you know, our platform's better. And I think when you listen to the context of what was said by Bill from Stadia Cast, is that he was very careful, and the developer was very careful to really cement that their game, and that's the important part, their game ran better on 2.0 versus Series X. Now, that may not be the case for every game. There's some games that performance-wise might be better on one versus the other. We've seen that happen before in the past. So I do think it's interesting because, you know, I kind of joked today. I had to take a loss on this one. I didn't think that Google was going to jump so far ahead this year into already starting to implement these these server blades. Now, here's what I will tell you, and something I didn't share during the show today, and it's something I was thinking about and just didn't get to, is that they may have accelerated plans, and part of that has to do with the current landscape with COVID. That, you know, it's highly unlikely at this point, and I'm not trying to dog platforms. It's a reality of the landscape we're in right now, is that I don't think we see PlayStation and Xbox this year. Yeah, you know, and I know they've said.
I can see that. I can see that delay happening. I mean, it's getting the parts and getting them manufactured, and that's the advantage that Stadia has. I mean, that's, you know, they're not having to build units in a massive factory, ship them to distribution units, then get them shipped out to the shops, and then get the shops to sell them. They're basically working on that, shipping to the products to their servers. Somebody's installing them, and a switch is going on. And so again, so the other advantage of that is they don't have to sort of build the complete system. They can just imagine it's like people who have their own sort of gaming PC. You go, you know what I need to do, or I've got this, I'm just going to upgrade the graphics card. You don't have to upgrade the whole thing straight away. And in a way, the way I see Stadia and their server blades is a bit like that. They can we'll just upgrade that bit now, and we'll just upgrade that bit now, and just so they don't have to build the whole brand new system from the ground up, manufacture it, and then distribute it to the world. They can just constantly upgrade their little their server blades. So like I think you can sort of say there, I don't think they need to do these big fanfare launches, and I don't think necessarily we'll see them. They'll just be continual upgrades. And if anything, the fanfare will probably come from game developers, I reckon, who's saying, our game, you can play it in 8K on Stadia. So I think it'll be the developers who publicly going, we've developed this game and it works in, whatever it is, 120 frames per second on Stadia.
Yeah, I just, part of me believes that we've seen a lot of market shifts this year. And one thing, I'll finish with the point about Google, and then I'm going to draw something else into this because I think it ties into it perfectly, is that Google may have accelerated plans because they know that these platforms just aren't going to make it to market. So what's a way to fill the void? And I know this is really tough to talk about right now because we don't want to downplay the seriousness of this situation. But when you're looking at it from a business perspective, Google is trying to make the best strategic moves for their longevity. And I think that ties into, something that happened with Phil Spencer. And it's very interesting with Microsoft is that initially when we heard Phil Spencer talk about cloud, it was about 2 or 3 weeks earlier to the next statement I'm going to bring up. He mentioned that cloud wasn't really the focus. It wasn't where the mindset needed to be. 2 to 3 weeks later, he comes out and says, well, why are we focused on physical hardware when Google and Amazon are trying to capture 1 billion people? Well, at the time, the initial thought was, oh, well, he's just really trying to pivot and grab control of the cloud, which now in hindsight, if you look back at the timing of all of this was right around the same time that the WHO was warning about the pandemic. And I'm wondering if, you're starting to see a lot of these moves that have happened were in response to, they felt like, and especially in Phil's, circumstance, they felt like they needed to start proactively changing things because they knew that there were going to be impacts. Yeah. So this all starts taking a much different meaning. It's a day-to-day, landscape that we're living in right now. And it'll be very interesting to see when Google decides to really implement that 2.0 push, which will tell us a lot. If they do it in September and October, I'm going to lean more towards that might have not been their initial goal or approach. It was, we're trying to seize an opportunity.
I think you're right. I think the whole COVID situation means that people are having to change their business models for the year and completely their plans. Now, if you're delivering physical product, you're going to be the ones that are most hit, whatever that product is. The manufacture and distribution of physical products have clearly been impacted by the current situation.
Right.
Google. So the ones that are taking who are in the position where their product is being kind of consumed on a greater level are those that have virtual products. So we've seen mass consumption of Netflix. We've seen Disney, I think, break through something like 50 million subscribers within the space of a few weeks. Certainly, in Europe or something like crazy like that since their launch, just like massive market penetration. And they'd always planned to launch, but the point is they can adjust things slightly and be fleet of foot, as it were. And Google can do that with Stadia. They can afford to sort of change their plans and how they work because it is being delivered virtually. And as we've always known, that they do all the tweaks in the background. We don't have to go to the shop and buy a physical product and take that physical product home, which right now is difficult because stuffing an Xbox in with the spuds, we have like certain rules. Like, is that necessary product, sir? Can we see your bag, sir? I need the Xbox. That's the sort of
right.
That's the world.
Yeah, I mean, everything changes, and I struggle with this right now because we're in a very weird landscape. What we are going to consider normal when we get back to an even keel out of all of this isn't really going to be what we've ever thought was normal before. No, and I think people may not really are ready to grasp that reality, but we're going to grapple with that going forward. There's going to be a lot of changes to business sectors over this. There's going to be changes to supply and demand and supply chains because of this. There's a lot of things that are going to be impacted, and the gaming industry, I think, is on an accelerated timeline right now. And I said this about a week ago that I really never thought, Clive, that cloud gaming, in the sense of it being really at a focal point, not that it wouldn't be like talked about as the focal point this year, but I mean literally the market share focal point. 2 to 3 years was my guess that we would finally get to a place where it would start gaining traction. Now, the way things are heading, we're potentially going to see cloud gaming be the focal point of the market share in 2021, which is not something I think anyone expected to happen, or
it's
even
certainly going to mean
that
Sony are going to have to get their act together ASAP in terms of what are they really? Yeah, we know we've got the PlayStation network. What's it called? Anyway, their PlayStation Now thing. We know that, but they need to. It's not really in the same ballpark as arguably even Project xCloud to a certain degree, but certainly not Google. So we know that we've not heard any rumblings about. We know what Microsoft are doing, but what is Sony doing? And as you say, I think that the sort of the route to cloud gaming is being shortened given the current circumstances.
Right.
And
I agree.
So, the fact that Sony are late to the game already, I think, in terms of saying, actually, we're going to upgrade PlayStation Now and they're all going to be, you're going to be able to play all your games in 1080p and, the fidelity is going to be better and all that. They've not mentioned any of that. So it's even more crucial for them to sort of get on board because, they may well win the next console war, but that's the now, it's not the future. So well done, you've won that war, but the next war is already taking place and you're not even in the game.
Yeah, and I'm been kind of, I'd say maybe more than half of a Sony adopter for most of my life, and I've constantly seen them sadly just be last to the race in a lot of things, and there's a certain arrogance to them, and there's a certain arrogance to how they approach things, that they just think that they know what's best. And I think even they are starting to realize that.
I think they did, and they proved it, and that arrogance was built from success, and they sort of said, look at us, nobody can touch us, and they have massive brand loyalty, and I think that will sort of fare them well for the next year or maybe 2 years or so. But unless there's a generation of people who don't have that brand loyalty with them that are coming up, or it will no longer be able to provide what they did before. And if they just rest on their laurels, they will fall behind, as we've seen with blockbusters and also television companies and film companies who didn't adapt quickly enough to the changing market. And Netflix, as I've said it many before, being in the TV industry, knowing the impact that has had, it is just like a bomb dropping in the business industry. It's the big players. I work for a massive player, and the impact on we're having to change everything we know about what we do, and we're not alone in that. Every TV film company, and in the UK especially, we're going, what can we do in a way to man the barricades? Because if Netflix take over all the production, television production and stuff in here, and buy up all the talent and buy up all the writers, then what happens from and I don't want to get philosophical, but from a cultural point of view, what happens to your culture? Because it's now all gone to Hollywood effectively, or Netflix, and they're now making stuff for the sort of mass market and not making cultural based, for your particular country or whatever, and stuff like that. And that's a real genuine kind of fear that somebody gets too big too quick. But it's because Netflix made a decision early, and they got into the market, and the only people that can keep up with them are the Amazons, and they can only keep up because they already had loads of money, so they can make that heavy investment needed to at least keep in the races with Netflix. And you're going to see the same with cloud gaming. It's only those that have got the money and the infrastructure to keep up that's going to be able to sort of generally say keep a pace with Google.
Well, and again, to bolster your point just very quickly, is that the reason Netflix is so successful is because, again, they work on their own content. But look at the early days for them, and even when they had their early successes, you didn't get every brand new movie, you didn't get every brand new show, and yet people still adopted it because of what? Convenience. Yeah. And this is something that Stadia, and I'm purposely tying that in, is that something Stadia has to do is they have to sell this platform as from a cost-effective analysis and convenience. If they sell those two things, this platform will skyrocket because people always love that.
You remind me actually now that my first experience of Netflix when it worked. So my first experience of Netflix wasn't very good, and that's because my broadband was a bit rubbish. Sounds a bit familiar to a lot of people. Stadia. Then I tried it again, and the user interface on Netflix was much better. And it was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. I could just watch these films or watch these, that was, and you've just reminded me there actually that that feeling I had is in a way similar to the feeling I had with Stadia. And I'd never thought about it until you just mentioned it there, that you actually go, oh my God, this is amazing. I can play all this. And that experience is going to be replicated by so many people who, you've probably seen it in Reddit and on Twitter, people going, oh, I haven't played gaming. I saw a guy posted a picture of something from Tomb Raider and he goes, last time I played this, she was very pixely or whatever. She was, it was back in PlayStation 1 days or whatever. I can't believe I'm playing this on my Chromebook or whatever. And that experience is going to be replicated to, as I say, lapsed gamers, people who used to game and now have an opportunity for free, right, to try out a console for free. It's going to be a wow experience for so many people.
Yeah, agreed.
But it won't be a wow experience forever. But while it is, it's a really big selling point.
Yeah, and they've got the capability of, again, to basically be the leader in the market. And right now the ball is in their court. They have control of the narrative. They've had control of the narrative. We're going on almost 2 weeks, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the market reaction is from these other companies and what they decide to do as their chess piece moves. And you're, like I said, you're seeing small things here and there, but the next big move that happens is going to be very telling. Yeah. And I'm very curious to see. I don't know that Amazon's going to be the one. I think we're probably going to see a massive announcement from Microsoft because they're going to have to do something to combat this. They can't let it go too long.
Microsoft have got. So it is rumored in the Microsoft world. I dabbled in there recently, last week or whatever, and in the community, in the chat. And there was a leak that seems to be being shared at the moment that Microsoft Xbox are planning 2 sort of virtual conferences.
I wonder why.
One in May. Yeah, exactly. One in May and one in June. One will be hardware focused. And it's rumored they'll be announcing their Lockhart, which is a sort of more entry level. So it'll be the entry level Xbox Series X, except they're going to call it Xbox Series S, and some more details on the Xbox Series X. And the idea is that basically Xbox Series S will be the equivalent of an Xbox One X. And I think it will look like an Xbox One Series X. Very confusing, but you know what I mean? So it'll look like the tower, but it will have the power of an Xbox One X and some other extra things in it. And it will be at a price which is, maybe sort of 300 quid as opposed to a price, at 400, 500 quid. So they're going to potentially announce that. And so that when they launch, they'll have 2 options. The other thing is, and it's rumored as well, is that they'll talk about launching xCloud to the public. So releasing it from its beta. And that, I think, is certainly okay. Maybe not, they wouldn't publicly admit it, but in this COVID world, if we can get that out now, you've got literally a captive audience. And they've also sort of seen, they can jump on the coattails of the sort of buzz around Stadia and stuff like that. And plus they've got a massive, loyalty following. So anyway, it's rumored there's going to be two virtual conferences from Xbox, one in May, one in June. The one in May will be about the hardware and maybe Project xCloud. And then the one in June will be about some exclusives and games they've got coming. And that's sort of based on a leak, and then some other people have confirmed or suggested that might be the case. But as I say, we're going to see, and they're not going to be the only ones. making big announcements. I think we're going to see, because E3 is not happening, so that Nintendo do their little sort of pre-recorded conference just before. We know Sony must have something up their sleeve, and then it's not just that. Some of the big publishers as well, I think won't be just talking about games. I think we might see some hints of some other stuff that some of the publishers are planning to do in terms of making their games available. Yeah, maybe by the cloud.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
I think.
What's your So before Stadia, what was your gaming sort of weapon of choice, as it were? What were you gaming on?
I kind of came up through a couple different platforms. So my dad had an Atari 2600.
Oh yes.
Played Pitfall on that. That was kind of my first love. Yeah, first love with a gaming platform, and it kind of just was awe-inspiring. And then Super Nintendo and Yoshi's Island, and moved forward into the original PlayStation. My dad, I literally remember going down to, we used to have a box store here called Kmart, and he took me down there and said, what do you want, as a kind of a as a like a birthday / kind of like grades you did well in school kind of thing. And I said, well, I'd like to have a PlayStation. And I literally remember getting it. I remember they used to have on the end caps those demo discs, so got one of those. And from there on forward, it was kind of a little bit of three platforms to answer your question fully. So PlayStation ecosystem. I dabbled with the Xbox up until the 360, and I had 6 red rings of death. And just their customer service, and with just some of the experience I had with Microsoft at that time, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So I decided I'm done with them. But PC was also the other thing that I played on a lot too. I played a lot of StarCraft. Funny enough, Serious Sam, I actually played that on PC.
Oh, wow.
Baldur's Gate, 1 and 2, played that on PC. So I had some PC experience, but primarily it was on PlayStation.
Yeah, I must admit, I never really was into sort of a PC gamer, because I think the level of entry was always a bit too much for me, and I always like getting cheap computers or Chromebooks or whatever the equivalent, just enough to do some basic work, but never enough. Right. It was only like about 5 years ago, and even then I bought like an entry level gaming laptop for my kids, just so they could play. It was enough to play effectively Minecraft for them. And then from that, but previous to that, I used to, I had a PlayStation 1, and then I'm trying to think the order of things. I used to, after work and a few drinks and other things, I used to go back to my mate's house and sit and play Mario Kart all day long, or all night long. And it was, so I bought a secondhand N64, and then was it about that time? Was that afterwards? Yeah, I worked briefly for Lego Games, and so then I bought all the 3 consoles at the time, which was a PlayStation 2, a Nintendo GameCube, and the original Xbox. And so I had all of those, and that's when I really got into gaming. And then kids came along, but we needed a nursery, so out of my office that I had then, shelves and everything, out of that, and the nursery went in, and then I never really got to play. And then about 5 years ago, I was with the kids, and I just thought, oh, they're into Minecraft. I want my kids to grow up as gamers. So I said, fudge it, let's just pop down, as you say, the equivalent of Kmart, the Tesco here, as it were, and I'll have that one, please, and got the Xbox One. And then I was the one that ended up playing. I mean, they play a lot. My daughter less so, but my son still plays tons and tons of the Xbox One. But when they weren't here, I was like, well, I've got nothing else to do. And suddenly I was thinking, oh my God, I've just played 9 hours of Minecraft. Like, how did that happen? And then I just got more and more. I found a renewed love for the gaming that I had, from 10 years ago. And then with Stadia coming along, it was like, yeah, I'll try that. Because saves me buying an expensive computer, Yep. So tell me at what point. So why Stadia? What point did you think, okay, this looks interesting?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because my initial reason for jumping on the platform was more so about cost. So kind of the same thing that you just said a moment ago, that, I was thinking ahead of, well, what's going to be the next gen console price, and I had kind of already started doing math in my head. They're going to be using a solid state drive. They're going to have to use this. So I already knew that, we're going to be approaching the $600 mark, and how they get it below that, I just don't even know how it's possible.
There'll be a loss leader. They'll be making a loss. I think PlayStation 3 made a massive loss because they didn't mind, because they're going to make it all back in sales, games royalties, but yeah,
you'd hope so. But I mean, the amount of stuff they're putting in the platform, I just don't know how they get it even below that number. I think it's really pushing it, without completely losing everything. But that was the first thing that I thought about. And around GDC time, I always had watched GDC and kind of just felt like, let me just tune in, let me see what's going on. And, there'd been rumblings that Google were doing a platform, and I thought, well, maybe they're doing a physical console. Let's see what it is. Let's see what they're doing. And really, at that time, just me not thinking about the fact that Project Stream had just happened. They were doing testing on the cloud. Never occurred to me that that's what they were potentially looking at. So the cost of it is what really intrigued me at first, was the fact that there was going to potentially be a platform that, and this is really important, and I think this is something that folks, really, this is what we should be talking about. It's a lifetime console.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay into it.
Talking about, and in Stadia card, you're absolutely right.
You don't have to pay anything into it other than your games, and they're doing all of the enhancements on their end. So that was what intrigued me initially. Now, I have to be honest.
You're paying for a service in a way, rather than a product. You're paying for a service that just allows you to game and keeps up with the gaming technology, and you don't have to worry about it. That's the price you pay. In fact, or you don't. If if you get Stadia, you don't have to even pay. You just buy the games, but they will provide a service which allows you to play these games. So just like Netflix going, oh, now we're offering the things in films in 4K. We've upgraded everything. You can watch it in 4K. It's the same. Wherever the next generation of sort of game tech, Google will employ it, roll it out. You don't have to worry about it. We're providing this service for you.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. And then what ended up changing everything, I think, for me, was realizing the convenience. And that didn't happen until it was a hands-on situation. So, when November hit and really getting to move between screens, and especially because my wife is a huge fan of Walking Dead and a couple other shows, so that the main television tends to get taken over when those shows come on. So, I'm like, okay, well, let me go play on my Pixelbook. Boot it up. Experience wasn't, I'll be very honest. I've talked about this before. Experience wasn't great on the Pixelbook to start, and it's kind of hit or miss still, off and on even now. But what really, and that's a whole nother thing that's just strange. But really, what I thought was interesting was on the phone. That has been basically as flawless as the Chromecast for me, and it's on a Pixel device. And I was sitting in this, this is a game room that I have here, but I was sitting here playing, and I'm just like, I'm playing on a phone that can't handle the tech that would be required, right? And I'm doing this again, where this makes it convenient for me to game the way I want to game, and gives me back that freedom and gives me back ownership of my time. And that's something else that I think is key, is that we don't own our time sometimes with these consoles. We're literally locked to a television, and we can't move around our home, or we can't be mobile, or if somebody wants to watch something, we can't do what we want to do. So, I went from playing 10 or 15 hours a week, Clive, to going up to about 20 to 25 just because of the convenience of it.
Yeah.
So when you combine those two things, to me, and just knowing Google's infrastructure, their network pipeline, everything else, this platform made the most sense. I looked at it from a business and kind of analytical mindset as well, and said, there's no one else right now. You said this earlier, that is as well positioned as Google is in the market at this moment in time to not be the front runner. Now, again, can things change? Absolutely. And I don't want to be disingenuous. But that's exactly why I considered the platform.
Yeah. I think for me, so were you, so at the second Connect thing they had, and they said, okay, and we're going to be launching this in November, and this is the Founders Edition.
Yep.
and this is the bundle you're going to get, and this is how much it's going to cost for you. Like, yeah, I'll have one of them.
Yeah, I was on board immediately, and my initial thought was, it's a $130 investment. If I don't like the paid subscription, they are saying that we'll have a free model.
Yeah.
And I've kept Pro because I think just valued $1, it's, you're getting a lot of value out of it. But, again, my mindset was, heaven forbid, I can't do that. I've got a free platform. And I keep coming back to this, Clive, of, the PR part of me comes out of knowing what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months. There's going to be a billboard. And I promise you all, you watch, this is going to happen. If you don't think Google is going to do this, just watch. A billboard will go up that's going to show Google Stadia with a $sign and a 0 next to it. And they're going to show the competitor and the price.
Yeah.
And people are going to look at that and go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that, and here's the thing, people's minds always gravitate. And if you have a background in PR or marketing, you'll understand this. It always goes towards, what is the catch? What is the rub? Yeah. What are you doing that's getting me drawn into that $0 point? And when they find out that there is no catch, you just buy your game and you can play.
You don't want to play games. You don't. Some people don't want a massive library of games. They just say, I'm not going to play that much, but I love, Tomb Raider. I'll buy that game or whatever, or a game that's constantly updated. Whatever I'll buy that game, and maybe I'll buy 4 games a year or something. That's perfect for the real, as I say, the light casual gamer, as I might.
Yeah, it's a massive, like, Google, when they did this, the promise of what this platform is, again, from just a kind of exposure standpoint, it's so massive. Like, people are going to just, I've used this analogy, Clive, and again, you kind of reference where, some of the work that you do for the job that you're in, but, when you go into any other market and sector that exists out in the marketplace, I don't know what the big box stores are over there, but over here you've got, we have a grocer chain called Publix, and then we've got another one that's a German chain called Aldi, and they're pretty big across.
Yeah, Aldi, yeah, we got out.
Yeah. So they're awesome. But reason I'm bringing that up is, Publix offers high quality goods at a much higher price.
Yeah.
Aldi offers those same quality ingredients at a cheaper price that's affordable for folks. What tends to happen in these markets and these sectors? People go towards the same ingredients at a cheaper price. The difference is, and you've heard people, and I have always gotten to this kind of back and forth with a couple different people in the gaming circles, is that, well, that's not how the gaming industry works. Okay, you're right. That's not how it's worked. What is going to happen is this move is going to upend the market, because these consoles can't compete against that. There's not a way for them to say, well, crap, we've made a $600 console with all these parts, we're going to drop it to $250. They can't do that. Their margins will not allow for it. So this will naturally bring a balance to the gaming landscape, and you will see people vote with their wallets, ladies and gentlemen. It is a reality. It will happen.
Yeah. And it's also not just so much a vote as well, because that suggests you're splitting a sort of a set market size. What you'll see is people who aren't in the market come to the market. So it's going to expand the market, and that's the main thing, because of this whole
competition
accessibility. Yeah. So on this, right? So look, it goes without saying that you, as I say, you were the sort of second Stadia content person I went to. And then ever since I've watched you, you've encouraged other content creators. You've been on content creator shows. You're on my show. You've had people on your show and everything. And you like today, even, like, I saw you in people's channels, chat, talking away. You had your own show. I thought, this guy do any work at all? What?
No, trust me, I do.
I was working. So the point is all of this takes. I know from experience, all this takes time and effort. So why is it that you feel, in a way, that what made you start Stadia Talk? What was the driving motivation there to do that?
Well, I mean, I was actually on my personal Google account to start, and I just noticed that there was a lot of misinformation about Google as a company, and I think the one thing that drew me in initially was that there was the argument being made that Google just shuts down programs, and that's not accurate in its entirety. There's a difference, ladies and gentlemen, between Google phasing out free services or free programs and paid services like YouTube TV, Stadia, Google Play Music. Those programs Google has very rarely shut down. We're maybe up, and I've said this before, we're maybe up to 6 in their lifetime. Google Glass took a hit, Google Fiber in Louisville, Kentucky, Google Hire. There's a couple others that they've shut down, but they rarely shut down paid services because what? They're revenue generators. Free programs aren't.
Closing an app is like, oh, whatever, didn't work, you know. But they've invested big time in the hardware behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, because people confuse applications with Google and money, and it's like, they get data from those apps. But consistent revenue, any business is not going to shut down consistent revenue. I mean, that is just not what is in their mindset. There has to be a severe reason for them to cut their losses, and they're definitely not at that place with Stadia. I mean, that's a given fact now where we're at now with what we know. But that's part of the reason why I jumped in. And I think the other reason too was I've always had this mentality that there's just a lot of, and I have to be very careful because I want to be politically correct and I don't want to say anything expletive wise here because I'm trying to be respectful. But there's a lot of crap that's out on the internet. And there's a lot of people that have hidden agendas and have reasons behind why they say what they say. And for me, I've always tried to live by the mentality that I want to help people. I want to be able to give back, and I want people to be able to go to a place where they don't have to agree with me. And I really truly mean this, Clive, when I say this. If 4 people come to the channel and 1 person walks away liking Stadia and 3 have left, I've helped each one of those people. And you may say to yourself, what do you mean by that? Well, 3 people came in, they took the information, they decided that it didn't fit their use case, and 1 person decided that it did. That's fine. Guys and gals, we can't force people into something that they don't like. And it's all about, to me, not forcing purchasing preferences. I hate when I see that on people. I hate when I see folks feeling like my use case has to be their use case. No, it doesn't. It's just use my example, see if it fits yours, and then go from there. And the other thing I try to do, because of the background of the work that I do, is I try to come at things from a business lens, thought-provoking, and with honesty and integrity. And it's a different look. It's a different mindset. It's very much me kind of provoking thought and trying to kind of push thought, but it's intentional because it helps us understand how we get our games. And while that may not be as important to some folks, when you pull that curtain back, it's fascinating because it helps us get to a place where maybe today I said to company A, I want my game tomorrow. But having watched something where someone explains that it takes 2 or 3 years to get to that point, then maybe there's now a tempered approach the next time. Maybe you're like, you know what? Now I understand that's why that's not happening.
Yeah. And there's a real passion in integrity in what you do and what you say about Stadia. And it's interesting you mentioned there that you saw a lot of sort of shit being talked about Stadia.
You said it. There you go.
Yeah, it's fine. You've got it. And this is, and I think I had a similar experience. And I see this as well. I see this in so many content creators and why they kind of feel obligated. So from my point of view is, I do sort of just random tech. Anything I buy, I just think I'll do a review of it on YouTube.
Right.
And so I did Project xCloud, and it was one of my biggest videos at the time. And it's like, wow, this is really great. And it helped really sort of blow my channel at the time. So I couldn't wait for Stadia to come out, and I did an unboxing of that. And then, like you, I saw this sort of, these reviews going, oh, it's crap, it doesn't work or whatever. And I was thinking, I've only got 15 megabits per second. Like, I live in a village, and yet it works. And I've got an Xbox One X, so I'm not talking, I'm not talking out my butt. I know what a game should feel like. I'm not the greatest gamer in the world, but I know what it should feel like, look like. I know what the experience is like. I've tried Project xCloud, as I said before. It's playable, but it just didn't feel quite. It was a bit off. I tried Shadow, and when that worked, it worked quite well, but there was bits that didn't work, and it was inconsistent in the service. But Google just worked, and it looked amazing. Destiny 2, when you play it, it just flows so well and plays really well on those experience, on experience. And so then I said, well, this is great. Everybody must be loving this. God, every stadium must be really proud of what they've done. I'll just check the internet, see what they're saying. And then you see all this crap out there and you think, what are you playing with? Like a piece of string and a yogurt carton or something. I mean, what the flip are you doing? You know, like I couldn't believe it. And so you see, and then you realize, oh God, people have got these agendas, or that, you know, there's certain channels I've seen, and you think, yeah, you haven't even tried it. And I get frustrated with that, where people are misreporting things.
Yeah.
And then reporting, and I've said it before in some of the, you know, I did a Google does not suck thing about where people reporting about people reporting that things are rubbish. So they're just perpetuating a myth they've heard because it fits their narrative. And all down the chain of these people just sort of perpetuating this myth that, oh, Stadia's crap, it doesn't work. No, nobody's tried it. And it's very, very frustrating. And that frustration, I see it come out in you sometimes, and I see it certainly, you know, in most of the other Stadia content creators, and I can sense that's why they do that. And so it's just interesting. But with you, I think why you're very popular within the community, that goes without saying, and it's because I think you wear your heart on your sleeve. You know, I've seen you sort of, you put it out there, to be honest. I'm frank with you. You know, I'm thinking, oh my God, he's really expressing, you know, his emotion here and loving it. And people love that because they know, therefore, that what you're saying is not tainted with, you know, BS. It's like, this guy is talking from the heart, talking from experience. And that combination, I think, is very powerful, and what makes you a popular content creator, and certainly within the community, someone who's sort of really looked at and is really popular and people look to. And I also want to say that I really appreciate the fact that you do kind of act as a sort of a hub for all these content creators. We've seen so many content creators like grow rapidly in the space of time, and they got they went on one of your shows, or you invited them on your shows, or you've encouraged them, or you go on Twitter and you say, go and check out this person, go and check out that person, and you're very kind of supportive of everybody. And that's interesting enough. I just think that's almost against sort of the gaming community in general, which has a history of being very toxic. It's interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this. With the Stadia community, there seems to be a lack of that toxicity, which inherently has been, you know, part of gaming. It's just been part of gaming generally, and almost part of the game, as it were. But the Stadia community seems different. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and my mentality with, you know, with what you just said about, you know, basically the community that we have here is, it's truly something special, and it is a mosaic. And I think for me, it's, the community is bigger than me. And that's how I have always viewed it, is that I'm just one person that exists in this beautiful mosaic that is the Stadia community. It's not one person, you know, it doesn't matter who it is. I don't think anyone is better than another person. That's always kind of been my approach. I think what I have tried to do is I've tried to highlight the fact that it's an amazing community.
Yeah.
And if that has naturally made it to where, you know, there's people that have stopped by and the other, I mean, yeah, that has kind of naturally happened, like you said, but the intent of it is to really help show that you've got some amazing people here that are doing some really special work. And to speak to your point about the toxicity piece, is it's because there's a camaraderie piece to it. It's because of the fact that you've got a much, I think, older demographic that's playing this platform as it stands today, that understands and has lived through what has happened on these other platforms. And
yeah, I think that's true. Just that you're saying lived through. I think what you're saying, in a way, there's a slightly older gamer. You know, I'm generalizing here, but I reckon if you did a sort of a demographic analysis of Stadia compared to some of the other platforms, there's a slightly more older, wiser gamer who's going, you know what, I'm done with the toxicity, and this is a nice world, this Stadia world community. I'm kind of quite happy with that. You know, I've been that rebel teenager, whatever, yelling at somebody in CS:GO. I've done that bit, you know. but the Stadia community seems to be kind of much more loving. There's a good point here by Club Stadia here. Single-handedly, the best aspect of Stadia, the community, and it is, I mean, it's a smallish community relative to the gaming community, but
I agree with Brian.
One.
I agree with Brian 100%. And I think, again, I think part of the reason why this community has continued to go down this track of openness and inclusiveness and just trying to be there for everybody is, if you go to, just look at the different content creators that you have out there, Clive. You've got Megatron X, you've got, I'm just trying to think of some other people where they've done some streams. You've got Ashes to Ashes, you've got Link TV. I'm really trying to single-handedly talk about the streamers. Freeform 64, Germani. These folks that are playing the games, that are actually out there, they're being open with people, and they actually, if you go and you listen to their live streams, they're not sitting there going, off the bat. If somebody starts throwing digs, then yeah, sometimes you see a guy like Germani. He's not shy to throw something back, or same thing with an MM2K. But for the most part, you see folks. Okay. Yeah, you see folks basically say, look, here's what it is. Check it out for yourself. And if you like it, that's fine. And I think what people have been used to hearing when they come onto like a PlayStation channel or an Xbox channel, and again, I'm not trying to dog the platforms, we're just talking about the communities. They've heard people say, well, PlayStation is the best. If you don't like it, piss off. Yeah. Whereas when you come to a Stadia channel, it's here's what it is. Check it out. If you like it, if you like it, great. If you don't, no hard feelings. Like, it may not be for you. And for some people, that's kind of a culture shock, because they're like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me to piss off. Why didn't you, you start then go, why didn't you say something like that? And that's because you've got genuine people in here that do have honesty and integrity. They're not here for the wrong reasons. And I think we've lucked out as a community that a lot of the people that we have are genuine, and that they care about gaming. That's the first thing, the most important thing. And then secondly, it's something that brings them back to when they were younger, and I think Stadia has also done this to some folks. They feel like they're plugging in cartridge media into a console because you just boot the game right up, So I think that has a lot to do with it, Clive. Yeah.
And I also think there's a sort of as you say, it's the fact that we've got it works, it's sort of met our expectations, it's enjoyable, and we kind of people want to share that. Like you said, well, this is really cool, and you want to share it with people, and get it out there, and then you see other people, yeah, it's cool, isn't it? And then you say, oh yeah, it's really cool, and then and it's interesting because you said the word mosaic. The community is like a mosaic, and it is, because it's interesting. There's so many different people from so many different backgrounds, all with a love of gaming. But I think I was thinking about it before, kind of, was writing some of these questions for you. And I was thinking part of it is the very fact that these people have chosen, I'm from a gaming background to a certain degree. And yet of the people in the gaming background, we're the ones that have chosen or approached Google Stadia with an open mind. We had an open mind to start with. We thought, we'll give this Stadia a go. It looks kind of cool. We weren't of the sort that said, not interested, Google, what are they doing in the gaming industry? Not interested. No, not listening. We were already open-minded to give it a go. We've been rewarded by it working really well and us all enjoying it. And so, although we're all from different, a mosaic, as you say, all from sort of different backgrounds and different countries and everything like that, we share one thing, which is we were open-minded enough from the get-go to give Stadia a chance and to make that investment, and then get it and go, actually, this is really good, and I want to share the fact that it is really cool and get as many people on here as possible. And I think that's kind of what makes the community so good, is that we're already coming to it open-minded. It means we're open-minded people.
Yeah, and I also think one other big thing that just kind of hit me, and why I didn't lead with this to begin with, I'm not sure, but most people that we have in the community too, as far as from the content creator side, are very honest about the platform. When things are good, we talk about them. When things are not so good, we talk about them. And you don't necessarily get that type of a take in some of these other communities. It's a very much either a rah, rah, rah or a hate, hate, hate. It's never down the middle. And that's something I have really strived hard to focus on with the content that I do, is that it needs to be an honest approach. When things are good, we can hold the good in one hand and it can be there at the same time that we hold the bad.
Yeah.
And we can talk about both of them equally without saying that one is more important than the other.
And
when
without
you do,
the other, then the other one loses its integrity. And if you don't
yes.
sort of say, okay, yeah, sure, it could do with more games right now. Yeah, that's a fair point. It doesn't have, FIFA or Madden, whatever. Yeah,
Right.
that's a fair shout.
No, it is. And I think, again, that's what's refreshing to a lot of people, is they feel like when they stop by these channels, they feel like, one, it's inclusive because they weren't told, like we said in the beginning, to piss off. Two, they feel like they're getting an honest take. And three, it's a welcoming place. Like, one other thing too, that this is my mantra. I've seen, other creators are doing the same thing, and it heartens me because I think it's the right thing, personally, just from experience, is that there should be discourse, healthy discourse, healthy conversation without demeaning people, name calling is a good thing. You don't learn by staying in a silo. You learn by people provoking thought and talking about things and presenting new ideas. And that's one of the things that, I've tried to kind of really promote, is that, when you think about things, think about one or two things that maybe someone presented that maybe didn't align with what you thought. And how could you enhance or make them better? Because here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, Google's going to need us, the people that are on this platform, to be creative and to be open and to be honest, to give them feedback on how to make the platform better. And it's not going to come from the people that are only going to be thinking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, day and day and day and week and week and week and month and month and month. We have to evolve in that respect. And it's a tough thing. People, again, as the human race, I don't want to get into psychology here, but we struggle with wanting to accept other people's opinions. It's a natural tendency. And I'm guilty of it. I do it sometimes too, and I have to take a step back.
We'll go in defensive mode, That's our first instinct, Yeah,
exactly. With the gloves on. I think that's what you're about to say. With the gloves on, you don't want to accept another opinion. But I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the way that you grow as an individual, the way that you gain knowledge, is by listening to other people, by taking in information. And sometimes that information helps you make an informed decision, an informed opinion. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, when you see people, I've seen it happen in some of my streams. I don't know if you've had it happen, in yours. I don't want to assume, but I've seen people walk out of there and go, man, I thought about this today. And, I'll see it in even my Discord where someone will say, that was what I was thinking initially, and now here's how I'm thinking about this. And I just sit there in awe, because you see someone basically going through that thought process. Like, the wheels are turning. They're really thinking about something, and they're really thinking about, how can it be better? How can it improve? How can it enhance? And that is the mark of a good community. That is the mark of a community that isn't, I don't want to steal the term from but isn't so rooted in following a herd mentality. It's very much rooted in, I'm my own person. I'm willing to take your opinions. I'm willing to digest those, and I'm willing to think about it and marinate on it. And out of that, you build character, you build knowledge, you build just a lot of different things. And it's an amazing thing. It's a really beautiful thing to see. Yeah,
it's a great community. And, and to say to everybody in chat, appreciate everybody here. Just an example of the, people I've seen, many of these people in so many, podcasts just today. The same old faces keep turning up, and it's great to see, because they want to hear what people have got to say. They want to join the discussion and all of those things. And I say, and it's people like yourself who kind of encourage that, support that, give a destination for people to come to. Shout out, I mean, everybody knows it. It's kind of redundant saying it, but where can people find you?
You can find me over at youtube.com /Stadia Talk. And as far as like social media, I mean, Clive's done an amazing job here.
Yeah,
it's
Phantom, man. Yeah.
he's ahead of the game tonight. At Phantom UFC fan, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And I'm just blessed to be around amazing people, and that includes you, Clive. I think we've got some really amazing people in this community it's humbling to be around, a collective of amazing people. And I think what drives me even more, and just to kind of end with this, is that it's amazing the people that follow the content and stop by. Like you said, you are the lifeblood, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
The folks that watch the content, otherwise it's just a person sitting here talking.
You're sitting in front of a camera, yelling into the void like some insane person. That's what it feels like sometimes. But we know everybody's like, "Hi, how are you?" in the chat, and welcome, or they're waiting for you to start. And it's, as you say, if it's only a handful of people, you just think, "Oh, this is quite nice." It's like it's a nice little community, and it's only going to grow. And that's the absolute, wonderful thing, because it will be a nice place for people to come, because you say there's not that toxicity that you might find in other gaming communities. And people are sometimes looking for a nice place to come that talks about the subject matter that they enjoy, or gaming, or whatever it is, and the Stadia community kind of offers that. So I'd say everybody in the chat, you can't put your hands together, so what you can do is you can hit that like button to show your appreciation to Chase. Make sure you probably all, as I say a million times, you probably all subscribe to him anyway, but if not, make sure you check out Stadia Talk. He's constantly on there. His boss is going to have a word, because he's never at work. I tell you, he's just he's putting the work, he's putting the shift in there. And as for his wife credits, they're out the window. He's in debt. He must be.
No, I truly am. I'm in debt even tonight. I promised as soon as I wrapped up that I would.
Sorry, Mrs.
Chase. she was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. But she was like, I'd like just to have a little bit of time. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. We all appreciate the kind of effort and the passion that you put into it, and it comes across. As I said before, your passion comes across, your integrity comes across, and it's appreciated, and you can see that. And I'm not the only, I'm sure I'm not, as I say, I'm not speaking alone. You can see that in the community. It's people like you that kind of, encourage people, help people keep going and doing what we're doing. And it's just great to see. And, I'm so glad I had you on my show today. It's been an absolute delight. And I hope, as I say, I hope chat's enjoyed it. We've had some good numbers today for me, and it's really, it's really pleasing that people have sort of come over here because they know that you're coming on the show. And, hopefully we've sort of revealed a bit more of who, Chase is and what Stadia Talk is all about. And I hope it's been appreciated. So one more time, ladies and gentlemen, let me hear you in the virtual world. Put your hands together for Chase, aka Stadia Talk. Anyway, I think on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say a big thank you. If you're not fed up of my voice, I'm going to be doing Generation X Gaming Club tomorrow night, UK time, 9 p.m. with Mr. Rock. Okay, we're going to be talking more than just Stadia. It's all things gaming, but from a couple of old cronies like us. It's the Generation X Gaming Club. I'll leave a link down below. It's not on this channel. We set up a separate channel just for that, 9 p.m. UK time. Make sure you check it out. Go and subscribe. I'll leave a link for you. I appreciate everybody who's been here today. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you, the audience, have really enjoyed it. Yes, you go on.
No, I was just going to say, Clive, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to talk with you tonight. And I really want to just say thank you for everything that you do. And just an honor and a privilege. I'm humbled. I'm humbled anytime that I get to sit with some of the amazing people that we have in this community. And I just wanted to make sure I stress that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, it's absolutely appreciated. And I know it's, late for you and you come back from work and everything. So I really appreciate what you've done today. So anyway, thank you, everybody. And see you around soon. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and all those things.